back to the architecture theme. We're going to bring Rod Stevens to the stage. Rod is a registered architect who acts as an integral design consultant for DuPont Pioneer. He's an active member of the American Institute of Architects as a lead accredited professional with a specialty in building design and construction. He's a certified facility manager and is a fellow of the International Facility Management Association. Rod enjoys making and listening to music, photography, racquetball, and automobiles. Please welcome Rod.
Okay, I'm still looking for the stage. I'm going to not use the mic tonight if you can all hear me.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to try to not be the uptight old guy speaking about a boring topic. But
That was Sarah who laughed.
I have to interrupt it. We had a long email conversation about whether or not he should wear a black turtleneck, and really
notice I have nothing on that's black. I didn't even drive my black car. But since I am one of those architects who has trouble speaking succinctly, I'm going to read my presentation. That's the only way I can stick to 20 seconds for every friggin' slide. So, the good news is it's getting darker. You'll be able to see my slides. The bad news is I'll probably have trouble reading my presentation. So let's go. I was originally licensed as an architect in 1983, which is probably before most of you were born. I followed a non-traditional path for my entire career, and I'm about to complete my 40th year of employment with DuPont Pioneer. I've never worked for an architectural firm, but I've worked with many. I grew up in a tiny town in central Iowa and would like to say that from the time I was a wee lad, I always wanted to be an architect. Not so. Before I went off to college, I'd never even met an architect. I have, however, been a car guy all my life and from an early age had a dream of designing automobiles. In 1970, I went off to ISU to get a degree in mechanical engineering so I could design autos. When I heard about the horrors of engineering mechanics courses, I decided to look around for an alternate major and settled upon architecture. I still have no idea why. I didn't realize that architecture students had to take EM as well. I fought my way through the coursework, spending countless hours in the design lab, and graduated in 1974. During that time, I developed a keen appreciation for architectural history, even preparing a graduate-level multimedia presentation on this very building we're occupying, Fire Station Number 1. So this has always had a soft spot in my heart. After graduation, I was looking forward to the glamorous life of an architect. Hand over fist and changing the world. I contacted every firm in central Iowa and found that the job market for recent architectural graduates was in the toilet again. In desperation, I contacted a person at Pioneer Hybrid that I'd met by chance. I got a job with Pioneer until a real architect's job came along, and here I am 40 years later, still waiting. I hit a time when Pioneer's growth was really beginning, and the group I worked for grew into Pioneer's design and facility management department. I learned by doing basically because there was nobody else to do it. Pioneer owned roughly 2,000 acres of farmland in the small town at that time of Johnston. Due to the growth of the Des Moines metro area in the mid-70s, the land was becoming too valuable to farm. My boss convinced Pioneer's leadership to turn it into Iowa's first planned community, Green Meadows, our version of Utopia. The design of Green Meadows was a collaborative effort between the local firm Environmental Design Group and the international firm SWA Group. It consisted of a mixture of single-family, multifamily, retail, commercial, and offices. The differing land uses were buffered by park areas, which were also used to drain the billiard table flat site. I spent the next several years helping design, implement, construct, and market Green Meadows while also acting as an internal design and construction consultant for Pioneer. As the community of Green Meadows matured, our group steadily did more and more work for Pioneer as the company experienced explosive growth. I was given lots of opportunities to learn and grow. Some was a result of just being in the right place at the right time, but I attribute a lot of it to my training as an architect. The nature of our work teaches us to think differently. including the ability to distill large amounts of data and creatively synthesize information on multiple levels simultaneously. There'll be a test on this later. One of the best examples of this different way of thinking is Frank Lloyd Wright, perhaps the most influential architect of the 20th century. He is reputed to have designed over 1,000 buildings, of which over half were completed, an amazing output. He constantly derided the American Institute of Architects, which in 1991 ironically declared him the greatest American architect of all time. In the early part of the 20th century, Wright became, well, you can see why I liked Wright, because he was a car guy too. He owned a whole bunch of cars. Wright was a genius, a scoundrel, and a salesman, and an egomaniac. So he constantly derided, I already said that. In the early part of the 20th century, Wright became famous for his prairie-style houses, which had low sloped roofs with broad overhangs, a large central masonry fireplace, decorative leaded glass, but no attics, basements, or garages, and lots of horizontal lines which he animated mimic the Midwestern prairie. In April of 1911, Wright persuaded his mother to buy land for him near Spring Green, Wisconsin. Wright began to build himself a new home, which he called Taliesin, which is Welsh for shining brow. This became the home and initial headquarters for the architectural school he would create in 1932, the Taliesin Fellowship. In the 1920s, Wright designed a number of houses in California using precast concrete blocks reinforced by an internal system of steel bars. The blocks were generally made on site, and each house had different unique patterns built into the blocks, influenced by Wright's interest in ancient Mayan architecture. Wright was an early snowbird. Taliesin West, Wright's winter home and studio complex in Scottsdale, Arizona, was a laboratory for Wright from 1937 to his death in 1959. Now the home of the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation and Archives, it continues today as the site of the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture. Wright's version of utopia, unlike Green Meadows, is known as Broadacre City, a decentralized community he proposed in 1932. He believed that everyone should have at least an acre of land and the right to beautiful housing in carefully organized cities that were spread out, not like the congestion of places like New York, a town he insulted more than once. Later in life, Wright discovered the curve, yet again reinventing himself. His newfound form provided some truly inspired designs like the Guggenheim Museum, the Johnson Wax Complex in Racine, Wisconsin, but other results range from interesting to just plain weird. Wright spawned many disciples, including Paolo Solari, an Italian architect who studied with Wright in 1946 and 47. Solari purchased some land north of Phoenix and in 1970 began construction of his version of utopia, Arcasante, an extremely high-density settlement in diametric opposition to Wright's Broadacre City. I hope this month, as we celebrate architecture, you'll think a little bit about the architects who have used their unique thinking skills to make your environment better. I may not really know how I decided on architecture as my life's work, but I can't imagine doing